Thank you.
Alex, congrats.
You know what the tennis world does not want you to see? The truth behind that 6-2, 6-0 scoreline. They want you to believe Alexandra Ayala got destroyed. They want you to think the Cinderella story is over. They want you to move on, forget what she did to Coco Gauff, and pretend like nothing happened. But here is what they are really terrified of. A 20-year-old Filipino warrior who just proved she can shake the entire establishment to its core. Stick around, because what Alex Ayala said after this match will give you gooseplasms, and trust me, the tennis elite are losing sleep over it. Quick favor, if you are loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers have not yet. It is free, takes a second, and means the world to us. Thanks if you did. Now back to the show. Let me paint you a picture. Alexandra Ayala walks off the court at Indian Wells after absolutely dismantling the US Open champion. We are talking about Coco Gauff, the golden child of American tennis, getting taken apart piece by piece. The tennis world is in shock. Commentators are scrambling, agents are panicking, sponsors are checking their contracts, because here comes this Filipino phenom, ranked outside the top 100, playing tennis that looks like it was forged in some secret tennis laboratory where they only teach dominance and fearlessness. She is not just winning, she is making statements. She is not just competing, she is conquering. And then, less than 24 hours later, she faces Noskova. Same court, same tournament, completely different universe. The score? 6-2, 6-0. And the mainstream media erupts with their narrative. Ayala exposed, Ayala exhausted, Ayala's dream over, reality check delivered. But hold on just a second, folks, because if you actually watch that match, if you actually understand tennis beyond box scores and Twitter hot takes, you know something was deeply, fundamentally different about what happened out there. This was not a normal loss. This was not even a normal thrashing. This was what happens when a young player physically drained from an emotional and grueling battle faces an opponent who played like she was possessed by the collective desperation of everyone who benefits from keeping the status quo intact. Here's the kicker. Noskova won 81% of her second serve points. Let that sink in for a moment. 81% on second serves. Do you know how statistically absurd that is? Do you know what the average on tour is? Around 50 to 55%. The absolute best players in the world, your Swiateks, your Sabalenkas, your Rybikinas, they hover around 60% on a great day. 81% is not tennis. That is lottery numbers. That is roulette hitting red 15 times in a row. That is not sustainable skill. That is panic-driven chaos that somehow miraculously kept landing in. Picture this. Noskova is not playing calculated tennis. She is swinging for the fences on every single ball, like her career depends on it, because maybe, just maybe, it does. She knows what everyone in that stadium knows. If Ayala gets a foothold, if Ayala finds her rhythm, if Ayala starts channeling even a fraction of what she showed against Gauff, this match could spiral into another headline-breaking upset. So what does Noskova do? She goes full kamikaze mode. High risk, high reward, zero margin for error tennis. And somehow, impossibly, it all goes in. Every gamble pays off. Every wild swing catches the line. Every desperate lunge turns into a winner. It was not dominance, folks. It was survival disguised as dominance. And here's what makes it even more telling. This was not Noskova's normal game. Go watch her other matches. She does not play like this. She does not sustain these kinds of numbers. She does not obliterate opponents with 81% second serve efficiency. But on this day, against this opponent, after what Ayala did to Gauff, suddenly she is superhuman? Come on. This was institutional pressure crystallized into tennis balls. This was the establishment channeling every ounce of energy into making sure Ayala's run ended before it became a revolution. Because that's what she represents, a revolution. A player from outside the system, outside the academies, outside the traditional pipelines, coming in and dismantling their carefully constructed hierarchy. They cannot have that. They cannot afford that. So when Noskova stepped on that court, she was not just carrying her own ambitions, she was carrying the weight of everyone who wants tennis to stay exactly the way it is. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about what happened after the match, because this is where it gets beautiful. Ayala, physically drained, emotionally spent, walks into the press conference, and you know what she doesn't do? She doesn't make excuses. She doesn't cry about being tired. She doesn't blame the schedule or the conditions or the opponent's insane statistical anomaly. Instead, she does something that reveals more about her character than any victory ever could. She shows gratitude. She shows grace. She shows the heart of a champion, even in defeat. Forever grateful, she says. And those two words, folks, those two words are why the tennis establishment should be more terrified now than they were after the golf match. Because this is not a player who crumbles under pressure. This is not someone who folds when the narrative turns against her. This is a warrior who understands that the path to greatness is paved with moments exactly like this. Losses that teach you more than wins ever could. Defeats that forge you into something stronger, sharper, more dangerous. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw a player respond to a brutal loss with dignity and perspective? In an era where everyone wants to blame the umpire, the crowd, the weather, the balls, the court, the opponent's grunting, Ayala stands up and says thank you. Thank you to her team. Thank you to her supporters. Thank you to the experience. That is not weakness. That is strength beyond measure. That is the mentality of someone who knows this is just one chapter in a much bigger story. And here's the plot twist the media doesn't want to talk about. Ayala's aura did not diminish after this loss. If anything, it grew, because now we've seen both sides of her game. We've seen the fearless assassin who took down Goff, and we've seen the resilient fighter who faces adversity with grace. We have seen the highs, and we have seen the humanity. And that combination, that duality, that is what creates legends. Not the players who never lose, but the players who lose and come back stronger, hungrier, more determined than ever.
And why this controversy exploded the way it did, you first have to understand just how extraordinary Alex